Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, everyone, depending on where you're joining us from today. My name is Courtney Gold, and I will be your moderator today for today's webinar. Just a few housekeeping items before we get started. This webinar is being recorded, so don't worry if you miss anything, want to share it with a coworker. We will be sending that within 24 hours. Second reminder, we do have our experts live on the call today, so please ask any questions you have in the Q&A chat window. So that's pretty much it. I'm going to just go ahead and introduce the webinar. It's New Year, New Features in Xray. This is a really exciting webinar. We love to introduce all the new features and new things out there for you guys. And then just quickly, we're going to go over all the speakers we have today that have generously joined us. We have Offer, he's our Senior Product Manager. We have Sharon, who's also a Senior Product Manager. And then we have Dagmeet, who's our Product Manager. And then we'll go over the agenda now. You'll see here, I won't list them out explicitly, but you'll be able to see exactly what we'll be going over today. And then at the very end, we will be doing some live Q&A. And then again, as a reminder, please ask those questions in the chat window as well. We will answer those directly to you. And if for some reason we do not have time to answer these questions, not to worry, please email webinars@jfrog.com. That's webinars@jfrog.com. It comes directly to me and my team, and we'll get those questions answered by the appropriate person within 48, 72 hours. All right, that's pretty much everything you have to hear from me. I know people aren't here to listen to the moderator whatsoever. I know they're here to listen to our experts. So I'm going to hand it off to Offer. Go ahead.
Hi, thank you. So I'm Offer, and just share my screen. So basically, we are going to speak today about two very exciting features coming to you. One is the enhanced CV data, which is basically already introduced by Xray in Q4. So why we actually need the enhanced CV data? Why we can't just rely on the public information that is available? So there are some cases the public information is which we gather from security advisory is sometimes very limited and not providing the full picture of a specific CV we are interested in. And as you know, there is the CVS scoring, but the CVS scoring is not always reflecting the actual risk of a certain CVE. And in the real world, we can face some changing situation that we need to highlight and to explain better what is the actual risk for a certain CVE. There is a challenge today to focus on the important CVEs and to be able to reduce noise of CVs which are with lower risk, and therefore it's very important to highlight specific CV information. And we know that there are specific conditions for several CVEs that are very important to understand the scope of the CVE. So there is a need to detail technical information about specific CVEs. Also, we have sometimes issues with the mitigations. There is a need sometimes to know not only the recommended fixed version, but other maybe lighter mitigations like patches and configuration related mitigations to easily fix some severe issues in the field. So there is a need basically to provide some more advanced information for CVEs. And what JFrog Security is actually offering, there is I think, world-leading team in JFrog, a research team, which is actually a CNA. CNA is basically an authority that is capable of creating new CVEs or new CVEs IDs and giving it to the community, and even also drill down to existing CVEs and provide more deep dive information. And this security team, this research team produced by JFrog, basically picks a lot of high profile CV, a lot of important CVs that are found and providing more detailed technical information about it. So this is what's the feature about. We are covering many important aspects of a given CVE, For instance, what is the actual vulnerable function, why the call that is being used is vulnerable, several conditions that contribute to the CVE risk, mitigations, as said, specific information like CPU architecture that CVE is affecting. So we are basically giving a lot of information around highlighted CVEs. And as a bottom line, we actually also provide a rating, a unique rating introduced by JFrog Security to aggregate all the info and provide one final rating for a specific CVE. So this is basically the feature, and I will just show you a quick demo for it. So to share my screen, this one. Okay. Okay, so now we have just searched for a certain component. Let's say it's URL lib, and I found several CVEs which introduced for this component. And the new thing here that you see is that specific CVEs as a dedicated icon, which is basically those CVEs which are providing the extended info for. And let's drill down to a specific CVE. And in this case, this CVE is about a certain vulnerable component that causing a specific HTTP connection to be vulnerable. So in this case, it can actually produce a man-in-the-middle attack, which is a very common and dangerous attack. It can cause to compromising information once you have such vulnerability. And the industry, or specifically NVD, put here a CVSS score which brings this CV to be with medium severity, but JFrog Security, because of several conditions, says that this CV is actually critical. So we can also drill down to some breakdown, and we see that in this case, the CV is very trivial to exploit. As said, it can cause a severe man-in-the-middle attack. So we provide some more information about it. And regarding the remediation, we can see that in this case, there are also other options, but just upgrading the fixed version, like basically providing some non-default configuration that will fix this specific vulnerability. So in this case, you see a lot of additional info and actually a different bottom line that is different from the one that was recommended by NVD. So this is an example, a good example of some high-profile CV that we enhance the info. You have also other opposite example that we found. For example, in this one, you can see the NVD severity is critical, and in this case, we actually turn around and decided that this is basically just medium in this case because of some conditions that we found, those green ones in this case. For example, the Red Hat, which is the real source of the CV, downgraded the CVSS to 7.5, and there are other conditions that brought us to recommend that this CV is actually with medium severity. So this is basically this feature. And I will go back to the slides. Okay, so the next feature is the CVE contextual analysis. And the CVE contextual analysis is another, I think, very unique and advanced feature which allows you not only to understand if what is the severity, what is the static info of a certain CV, but even understand the contextual info about the CV in the context of the specific artifact that the customer is investigating. What's the benefits of such approach? So it mitigates a common problem. There is today a lot of vulnerabilities, and we need to be able to, to filter out the ones that are less important in my environment, which issues are really exploitable in my environment. it can help with prioritization to understand which CVEs are really the ones that are important to handle. The context can be in a lot of situations, like the component, the vulnerable component is inside artifact, inside build, or even a release bundle. And then also I wish to have more focused remediation and action and call to action in such cases. Of course, the ability to scan for contextual analysis is a real need to also to cover multiple languages and many architecturals. It can cover also environmental aspect like configuration, not only if the vulnerable code is activated, but also if there are some environmental configurations or compilation flags that contribute the applicability. And also it can help automate the processes by filtering out those CVEs which are not applicable in a specific case. So there are a lot of benefits coming from this specific feature. In phase 1, we are going to introduce the phase 1 of this feature in Q1 very soon, and it will include basically the reachability paths. It means what paths of the vulnerable code are actually there. And in next phases, we'll add other elements like configuration, relevancy, patch existence, compilation flags, all other stuff that can also contribute to the applicability. We are taking in this feature into consideration the entire artifact context and scan it for this applicability notion. And we can also come with a bottom line if the specific CV is applicable. I will show you soon an example. Specifically for this feature, the entitled tiers are, we are starting to deploy it first for SaaS, and it will be available for customers that have the security pack in Enterprise and also Enterprise Plus customers, and on-prem will go next phase. And then the artifacts which are being scanned for contextual analysis are Docker containers, and we are covering more than 100 high-profile CVEs with contextual analysis, which include Java, JavaScript, and Python-related CVEs. So let me quickly jump to a short demo. Yeah, so we can pick even the previous example. So if we are going here, we remember there was the CVE, which was a high-profile CVE, and then JFrog Research recommended that the severity of the CVE is critical. But in this case, this is only still static information. Yeah, the static information, the enhanced static information says that this CVE is critical. But there is also the contextual analysis information, which is specific to this artifact. So in this context of this artifact, the CVE, even though it's critical, it's not really applicable in this context. And we also provide a breakdown why, in this case, the CVE is not applicable. So for this specific CVE, the problematic HTTPS connection is not exist. So the existing of the component only does not necessarily means that the CVE is really should be prioritized in this case. So even though the component is vulnerable and the static info notes that the CVE is very important, while scanning this specific artifact, we can add another layer of information and say, look, this CVE is basically not applicable in your specific artifact. We can see other example also. Let me maybe search for another example. So let's go to this one. So we have another CVE with contextual analysis supported. For this CVE, we see that it's a critical CVE, and in this case, the CVE is applicable. So if we go to this specific CVE in this instance of this specific container, we can see that in this case, the CVE needs to be fixed, and there is an applicable scenario, which means that there is a path for the code that is vulnerable that exists in the context of the specific artifact. So this is basically, two examples of a CVE that is applicable and other which contextual analysis found that it's the opposite. So I think did sum up this feature. I will go hand it off to Dganit. Dganit, take it from here. Thank you.
Thank you, Ofer. Hi, everyone. My name is Dganit Arnon, and I will go over a Git scanning feature. So let me share my screen. Okay, so first let's talk about why Git repository scanning. So as you all know, today we're scanning binaries, we're scanning builds. We also scan release bundles before releasing to production. We are covering a big part of our software development lifecycle. But we want to shift left even more to detect as early as possible as part of our code phase. And this, of course, will reduce the risk in later stages when running the build and when we're releasing to production. And this will actually bring security to the hands of developers during development in their own environment, in Git. And those scans will be triggered by different events of the developers while committing, while opening a pull request, updating a pull request, scanning their master branch, main branch, and so on. And the third point is, of course, creating a tighter integration between, creating a tighter integration between different VCS tools, different Git providers, like Bitbucket, GitHub, GitLab, to the JFrog platform. This is a foundation to many other integrations that might come in the future. So let's talk about what this feature includes in the first phase. So first, you'll be able to create an integration to choose your provider. We will start with the GitLab, GitHub, Bitbucket Cloud, and Bitbucket Data Center. You'll be able to choose your provider, create the connection, and then select which Git repositories you want to scan. You will also be able to select in what frequency this the scan of the main branch will run. It can be daily, weekly, and in addition, you will also scan every new or update pull request events. So that is the granularity of this configuration. Once you finished your configuration, you have your connection to Git set up, and the scans are starting to happen automatically in the frequency that you chose and by your commit and pull request events. But you'll also be able to scan it manually whenever you want. You can just get your scan now action to see current state of your main branch. Those Xray scans of Git repositories will run against Xray policies, the same as our binary scanning works. You'll be able to set up policies, security and license policies to create any rule severity of a certain level and above by CVSS score. You can create a white or banned list of licenses. And in the same way you're creating watch to create scopes to apply your policies on, you'll be able now to create watches on Git repositories. This will be a new scope that is available in the watch. Those policies and watches, of course, will create violations on your Git repositories, and you'll be able to prioritize your work on your vulnerabilities or license issues with those violations. And those scan results, of course, will be available via JFrog Platform UI. You will have a new navigation that is called Git Repository Scanning. You will see your list of repositories you are monitoring. For each repository, you will have the different scans that run. And for each scan, you will have the security vulnerabilities, license detection part. You will see the list of violations, the descendants tree, and everything you are used to see for binaries, builds, and release bundles by now. Everything that I just mentioned and more will be available, of course, also via REST APIs. And you can do everything also using those. This will be available for any Xray license for on-prem, Enterprise X and Enterprise Plus, and Pro X, of course, and for SaaS instances, each subscription that includes the security pack. The technologies that we are covering in the first phase are Java, NPM, and Gradle, and of course, this will be extended in the future. So let's move on to the demo. Okay, what I have here is a JFrog platform instance and a Bitbucket instance. So in my Bitbucket, you can see I have 4 projects: demo project, Gradle project, Java project, and Node project. And let's see what's new in the platform. So we have here a new navigation called integrations. This was not available in the past. First, we have the source control integrations. The source control integrations. We have GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, Cloud, and Server. I have a connection to the server, which is disabled now. You can see here, let me show you in edit mode. Once you are creating the connection, you would need to provide some credentials and URL to your Bitbucket server or any other provider to create the first connection. Once you created the first connection, you are moving to the next phase, which is a specific Xray configurations. In this part, you're choosing which repository you want to scan. So let's say I want all my projects to be scanned. And then, as I mentioned before, I can choose the frequency of scanning my main branch. I can scan it weekly or daily. I can also choose not to scan it with periodic scan at all, and then just use the manual scan and use the pull request scan. So let's finish. And I have my connection all set up with the configuration of scanning. Now let's see what happens in the application side. In the application side, I have a new navigation that is called Git Repo Scanning. And I can already see that I have here 4 repositories that are being scanned. And what I wanted to show you on the Bitbucket side is that for each project that I chose to scan, I have an access token that is being created by the connection, by JFrog, and a webhook that is now listening to to this repository events, either a new pull request or an update of a pull request. Okay. I also want to show you that I opened, in advance, I opened the pull request for, let's say, for the demo project. So I can show you those scans in the platform. So let's go into demo project repository. I can see here that I have 1 scan for this repository. The latest scan that happened is the pull request scan for pull request number 12. And we can see here that this is the pull request number 12 that I opened in Bitbucket. Let's see how those scans look like. So I have some information about the Git repository, from what integration it comes, and what frequency I have for these scans. I can also click the Scan Now button, as I mentioned before, to get at any point of time the most current scan. And I have here two scans, the weekly scan of the master branch and the pull request scan. Those are two different scans of two different state of the code, okay? Let's go in. So first I have, it's a bit different design of our Xray data tab, but it includes exactly the same information as we always had for any binary build release bundle scans. First, we have an overview. We can see here which repository was scanned, when, what was the target branch, the source branch, what was the commit chain, what was the commit message. And now I have the different tabs of the Xray detection. I have the violation. I see here that I have one security violation. You already know what this icon means. It means that we have an enhanced information about this. This is one of the features that Ofer talked about. And we can see all the information about this security violation, CVSS score severity, the research information. So everything applies not only on binaries, but also on the Git scans. I have here the security tab, which includes 3 security issues. Again, same information. We have here the bullseye, our diagram that shows you the dependencies, the impact path of each vulnerable component to up to the Git project. And we have the list of licenses that were detected. And last, we have the descendants tree, which will show you the full dependency tree. Pull request also look quite the same. This one is without violations, but all of the information is the same. Let's see what else. Okay, so let's look at this Java project, for example. It also, the scan was already completed, and it was just completed now because we created the connection now, but I can always click on the scan now. It will take a few seconds, and I will get the new scan results immediately. I think we covered everything. That's it. I will hand it over now to Sharon to continue with the Jira integration. Thank you.
Thank you, Ganit. Give me a second to share my screen. Hello, everyone. My name is Sharon Hiramut, and I have 2 topics to talk about today. First one is the Jira integration, and then I'll talk about SBOM or software bill of materials in a bit. So as many of you know, at least we know that 70 to 80% of our customers are using Jira as their ticketing system. And we've been asked about this type of integration for some time. And what we really wanted to do with this Jira integration was that we wanted to have the ability to create Jira tickets automatically based on the violations that Xray sees. And using the API integration, we are able to automatically create those Jira tickets that you would like. The first question many of our customers have asked us is like, oh, is it going to create hundreds of tickets based on Xray violations? Although that's a valid concern, you don't need to be worried about it. That is because we make sure that we don't create duplicate tickets on the same detection. For example, let's say you have a build A that has 10 detections, and we release build B in 15 minutes that also has 10 detections. We actually just create 10 tickets for those detections. You'll not be able to see duplicates created for the same issue for the same component. There is no need for you to deploy a Jira plugin. I know some of the vendors like to create Jira plugins, and you have to install something on the Jira server side. You don't need to do any of that. Of course, we support both Jira Cloud as well as Jira Server, which is the on-prem deployment of Jira. The big benefit for our customers is that the familiar workflow, meaning most of the developers and DevOps team members are already used to the workflow of using Jira or ticketing system to track their work and progress and things like that. So you don't really need to do any additional training. It basically creates a ticket based on the configurations you have configured, and you basically use your existing workflow that you have defined, the SLAs you have defined, to deal with the extra violations. And also in some of the very large organizations, we have noticed that not all developers have console access to Xray. So that way, they really don't even need to log into Xray console to figure out what happened, because we are including all the detection information in the ticket itself. Okay, so let's talk about how to do this. It's very simple, 4 steps. I'll show this as part of the demo as well. The first step, obviously, is to create a connection profile. What do I mean by connection profile? Here, you're basically picking the authentication type you want us to use when we do the API authentication. Jira supports OAuth 1, OAuth 2, and basic authentication. So we will support all 3 of those methods. So typically, OAuth 2 is used with the Jira Cloud. OAuth 1 is used in some versions of Jira Server deployments. Basic authentication is available for both Jira Cloud as well as Jira Server platform. So it's left to you to decide which type of authentication you want to use. And obviously, you need the Jira Server information and to log in. So very simple. So you create a connection profile with the Jira URL and the API token. The second step, once you have configured the connection, is to input the parameters that you would like Xray to use when creating Jira tickets. For example, you want to create tickets in certain Jira project. You want to create certain issue type. For example, you might want to say this is a bug, or you can also say this is a security issue, and you can create a bug type of security, for example. There's also a really powerful option of creating labels, automatically labeling these tickets, and that actually makes it really powerful. For example, let's say I want to create the CVE number as a label. So what happens is, all the tickets that are created with a similar label, you'll be able to filter and sort them, and so on and so forth. So it makes it very easy for you to filter these tickets based on the labels. And these labels are dynamically generated, so I'll show you that as well. And in some cases, let's say you have some custom Jira fields that you want to be filled based on the ticket information that we have. You can also do that. So you can create custom fields and say, hey, fill this field with this particular information, and we will automatically be able to fill that as well. So once you have the connection profile, once you have the configuration profile, the next thing is obviously to create an action in the rule. So you are creating policies to detect violations. So in the actions, you basically are going to say create a Jira ticket option, and there's an option to just tick checkbox. You just say create Jira ticket, and once you are done with that, you go to the watch profile, and there you are going to just select the configuration profile you did in step number 2. So very straightforward. So what actually this helps you is that you can have as many number of connection profiles, as many number of configuration profiles you want, because you might have multiple Jira projects you want to create tickets in. You have a different type of custom fields in different projects, for example, and so on and so forth. So it makes it really easy for you to use any combination of, you can have one connection profile, you can have multiple configuration profiles. So it actually makes it very easy depending on which project, where you want to create Jira tickets and with what severity. Okay, so before I jump into the demo, I just wanted to show you how a typical sample ticket would look like. This is just a sample ticket that I created yesterday. And I also created some labels. So CV automatically gets added. This is security issue gets added. And this, CVS score is unknown, so we're just going to leave it at that. So just a quick example of how the ticket might look like when you have. So with that, I will quickly jump into the demo. Here you go. Just going to quickly log in. So go to the configuration side and click on Xray and settings. You will see integrations here. So the first one is Jira Integration. And of course, the vulnerability feeds we had before, we have moved them to a new tab. You can just select a new Jira integration. So integration name, authentication type that you want to choose. I'm just going to say basic, for example. You can also say, this is a Jira server or cloud, and you just have to input the Jira URL. So very straightforward to set up the connection profile. So let's assume that you created that connection profile. Then now you have to create the configuration profile. So I'll also just quickly show you one configuration profile here that I've already created for my project. So profile name, the Jira project that I want to create is in bad. And you can also see that the moment you configure a connection profile, it will show you all different types of projects that are already there on Jira. So it automatically pulls down using the API, and it will show you all the projects that are part of Jira. And I want the issue type to be created as bug. Again, this information is available. And the real power I was talking about is the different labels that you can create. Here I was saying Xray violation type. I want to create Xray severity as a label, as well as Xray CVE as label. So I've chosen 3 different built-in fields for to automatically create as label. And if you scroll down, you'll see these are all the different labels that it has actually picked up from Jira. And if any of these start with Xray underscore, these are dynamic labels. So depending on the ticket, we actually replace those with those particular values. In case you have any custom mappings, you can add those as well. In my project, I really don't have any custom fields that I've created, so I'll not be able to add that here. But if you create any one, and it'll automatically pull down those custom Jira fields that you have created, and you'll be able to use those. For now, I'm not using that. And as I was talking, one of the concerns all of us have is that will it flood Jira with a lot of different tickets? So you can always, check this, eliminate duplicate tickets by build number, by package or release bundle, depending on your, comfort level. We automatically suggest to you to select all of these so that we're not creating duplicate tickets. So step 2 is over. Now we have the connection profile, we have the configuration profile. The next step is basically to use this in the policies, right? So I'll just click on one of the policies I have here. In one of the rules, I will go here, and it's basically very simple checkbox that says create a Jira ticket. So for this particular policy, I'm saying create a Jira ticket. So now I'll go back to watches. This is where everything comes together. So I'm just going to click on one of these. And as you can see, I actually have the configuration profile here in the watch that basically says, use this configuration profile to create the Jira tickets. So all 4 of these steps are required. And now basically you will be able to create Jira tickets for any violations that Xray sees. A quick example, let me show you. So this is my Jira Cloud instance. I'm just going to click on one of these. And as you can see, there are different labels created, and all the information from that Xray has, it has detailed information. And again, like you can click on one of these and filter these by security, for example. These are all the security labels that we have for the detections that I have. So very quick, very straightforward way to set up and use your existing workflow that you have defined, and everybody is familiar with that to create Jira tickets. the second topic I wanted to talk about so let's talk about software bill of materials, or SBOM and Xray. This is a capability that a lot of our customers have been asking. And obvious reason is that with the Biden administration's executive order on cybersecurity, they actually are mandating several federal entities to make sure that they have SBOM from software vendors as they are purchasing software. The reason being, obviously, they would like to know if there is any new vulnerability that comes out tomorrow. They want to easily identify which are all the software deployments that are impacted, because it used to take months, and they want to avoid that. Just to know if we are impacted or not should not be taking months. So that's the big reason why Biden administration with their cyber security executive order are pushing all the different vendors that do business with the federal entities to publish SBOMs as they are purchasing. So let's talk about what SBOM is. It's basically an inventory of software components and dependencies. High level, that's essentially what it is. So as a software vendor, as we sell software to federal entities, they might ask us for SBOM, and we give them an SBOM in certain standard formats. And we support 2 standard formats in this version, and I'll talk about them in a bit. So of course, this software list of components will include both open source and proprietary software as well. If you think about it, there are 3 different personas that are part of this ecosystem of software producers, software buyers, and software operators. So software producers obviously is the persona that we are addressing with this release. We want to make sure that you understand, you have an awareness of the components that are used and their core dependencies. That's exactly what we are going to be presenting in the SBOM in the first version. In the future versions, buyers will basically be able to get these SBOM from different vendors, and they'll be able to input those SBOM directly into the Xray product, and we'll be able to scan and let you know if there are any violations for whether it is security or risk, even without really having access to the software itself. And obviously, the operators or other persona, every day they hear about a new vulnerability in the news, and they would like to know if this new vulnerability is impacting any of their deployments. And that's the question that we are going to answer with Xray as well. So I just mentioned that there are 2 standards that we are going to be supporting in the current version. SPDX is now formally approved. About 5 months ago, this got approved as an ISO standard. And it is very popular with open source projects for license detection. So Xray will actually support SPDX formatted SBOM in different formats that are supported. For example, tag value, which is a text file, JSON, and XLSX formats, or the Microsoft Excel format. The other standard that we are going to support is CYCLONEDX. So CYCLONEDX is a lightweight SBOM standard, and it's basically used in application security context. This is also gaining popularity because it not only supports software products, it can also support software services as well. And the focus is on security. It's not a standard yet, but it's on the standards track. There's a lot of contributions going on with CYCLONEDX, and even JFrog is involved in this standard. So at least in the first version, you will be able to output the SBOM in CYCLONEDX format. We are going to be supporting both XML and JSON formats. So what exactly is included in an SBOM? And this is true for both the formats that I was talking about. Obviously, we'll show you the package name, package version, whatever licenses that we have detected. If we have URL for license, in some cases, we are able to get the URL for license. We'll be able to show that. And of course, we'll show you the package or file checksum whenever it's possible. So whenever we are able to calculate a checksum for a given package, we'll be able to show that. So here is just a quick screenshot of how a typical SBOM might look like. This is from CYCLONEDX. It's showing you some metadata information about the package itself, the SHA-256 hash of that, version of that package, what type of license it is, and the license URL. So where in the product you'll be able to export SBOM? It's very straightforward, as you all know. I'll show this in the demo as well. When you go to the extra data tab, you have actions. Under that actions, you will see export SBOM as SPDX or SBOM as CYCLONEDX. So quickly, let me jump to the demo and show that. Okay, so quickly going to go check one of the, oops, sorry. And the actions, you can see that I have SPDX and CYCLONEDX. I can just select one of these, and there are different formats you can actually choose to download in. Same thing for CYCLONEDX. Just for the sake of this demo, I'm not going to show you a text file with thousands of entries. So this is very simple, very straightforward way to download an SBOM. In case you're wondering, can I use APIs to download the SBOMs? Absolutely, yes. So we do have an API. Obviously, it's called as Export Component Details API. This is an existing API. We just added additional formats to that. So you can be able to say that SPDX is true, and you can choose which format you want, and you'll be able to download using the API a given SBOM as well. So that's pretty much what I wanted to cover. And maybe we can move into the Q&A part now.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. I'll go ahead and just quickly share my screen. That was great. I mean, I love to hear everything new that JFrog has to offer. I mean, it's always exciting. News always exciting. So thank you for all the speakers for, introducing everything today. So as I mentioned, I did have some questions come through. So I'm going to just start getting through all those now. So speak up if it's something directed to your topic. The first question that we had come in is, how does JFrog security research team decide which CVE should be deeply examined?
Yeah, so I would take that. So there are several, I think, criteria that helps the security research team to decide which CV to pick. It can be, the CVs with the highest CVSS score. It can be exploited CVs that there is a publication that the CV has a published exploit or even a published attack. It's very I think highlighted the issue if there is already published attack for a certain CVE. And also, I think the impact of specific CVE, the actual damage, potential damage of an actual CVE can be used as a candidate to such deeper examination for high-profile CVE.
Okay, cool. Yeah, of course. Yeah. The next question, I think this is going to be for you, Ofer, as well, is what is the difference between the enhanced CVE info and contextual info?
Yeah, it's a very good question. So I think that enhanced CVE info more refers to static info that the JFrog security research team actually picks a certain CVE and provide more advanced and detailed static info about the certain CVE. It's a manual work done by specifically by the security research team. And the contextual analysis is an automated code that actually runs on a target artifact and actually check on the specific artifact if the CVE is applicable in the case of this specific artifact. So the first one is a manual enhancement or enrichment of data, and the second one is an automated scan, basically.
Great. Okay. I think one more for you, Ofer, is how are you planning to enlarge the number of CVEs covered by applicability, I'm sorry, scanners.
Yeah, of course.
Sorry about that.
Okay, so basically, yes, of course, we are going to massively support the effort of adding more and more CVEs which are covered by the applicability scanner. We have the infrastructure in place to really scale this support, and basically, yeah, we should expect having more and more contextual analysis coverage for the CVEs that in your system.
Great. Okay. I think one more for you, Offer, but how will I be able to include the contextual analysis as part of the automation?
Yeah, so basically we're planning in next phases to add more automation capability for the contextual analysis. First of all, to include this as part of the policies, to be able just to, to filter non-applicable CVEs out from specific policies. And also we are planning to introduce some new table formats that you will be able to sort and filtering info. And one of the most important, I think, attributes of a certain CV is whether it's applicable or not. So there will be some enhancement around the Xray that will enable such automation. Also, we are already supporting in the phase 1 the APIs of the information that is outputted via the applicable scanners, via the contextual analysis. So you will be able to use those API and bind it to your automation.
Great, thank you so much. Ashuran, this might be for you. Is there a limit on how many Jira connection profiles or configure profiles that can be configured?
Good question. There is no limit in the number of connection profiles you can connect. We do understand that you might have multiple instances of Jira. You might have multiple instances of Jira Cloud. You might have multiple instances of Jira Server, or you might be in a hybrid model where you have you are in the process of migrating some projects to Jira Cloud, and some of them are still on-prem Jira Server. So you can basically create as many connection profiles and config profiles you would like, depending on the different projects, so that you create the ticket in the right Jira project. So yes, we support multiple configuration and config profiles.
Great. Okay, cool. The next question we have is when to use SPDX versus CYCLONEDX standards?
That's a very good question. So as some of you might already know, SPDX came out of the Linux Foundation, and it was mainly designed for detecting licenses in open source components. So if your use cases are around licensing and intellectual property use cases, then definitely look to using SBOM in SPDX format. However, if your use cases are around cybersecurity, in that CYCLONEDX does a very good job. Of course, it does also give you information about licensing as well. But if your use cases are to do with cybersecurity, try to use CYCLONEDX. Great.
Okay. Digny, I think this one's for you. Is can I create several Git integrations in my organization?
Yes, so of course, the answer is yes. Whether you're using several instances of the same provider or different providers in your organization, you can create as many as integration instances as you like. And those are, you can manage those and select Git repositories to be scanned from each one of those integration. And you will see them all together in your Git scanning. In the platform.
Great. Okay, cool. Awesome. Looks like we have time for a couple more questions. So I'm going to kind of get those through. What happens when a Jira ticket is closed?
So in the integration that we have today, it's unidirectional, meaning only Xray is able to create tickets into Jira. In the future, we are looking into implementing where if a Jira ticket gets closed, we want to reflect that back on the violations as well. We don't do that today, but we will look to doing that in the future.
Great. Okay. Is there a recommended way to share SBOM?
Good question again. So unfortunately, the standards that we have do not address what's the recommended way of sharing SBOMs. and there is no standard as such there. For now, however you want to share SBOM, that's totally acceptable, whether it's email or typically what we recommend is that, SBOM should be part of your build process. And as you're distributing the builds and binaries, it should go with that. So typically that's what we are telling right now. Hopefully we'll have some industry standards come up in the near future and we'll be able to securely share SBOMs.
Great. Okay, cool. Looks like we had one more question come in, so I'm just going to quickly read that off. Is what do you do once an SBOM is created?
Yeah. Again, a very good question as well. So typically what we're addressing the use case right now is that you create an SBOM and you'll be able to share it with other buyers so that they can understand what are the different ingredients of the software that you're trying to sell them, so that they understand if there are any security violations, if there are any license risks that they are taking as they are looking at your software. So the first use case is for us to make sure that the software vendors are able to deliver SBOM in the standard formats to different buyers. In the future, we also want to implement where you will be able to bring in an SBOM from a different vendor and input it into Xray, and Xray without actually having access to the binaries. It'll be able to tell you what are the different violations you're going to have just based on the SBOM itself. So you really don't need to get the binary into Artifactory. You don't need to index it and so on and so forth. You can just use the SBOM. So that's the future we are headed.
Wow. Thank you guys so much. I know we're just ending up on our time here today, but I want to quickly just thank you, the speakers, first and foremost, for putting in the time and the effort and answering our questions today. I'm sure the attendees appreciate that greatly. I want to thank the attendees for joining us today. And as a reminder, if you have any further questions on any of the new features, please don't hesitate to reach out at webinars@jfrog.com. That's webinars@jfrog.com. And we will be sending out this recording in 24 to 48 hours. So please have a look out for that. And I want to, thank everyone for joining again. Please have a great 2022. Please stay safe. Please stay healthy. And we look forward to seeing you guys all in the future. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.